Welcome to Gay Fairfax, a monthly entertainment magazine sharing news, views, and pride. I'm Barry Forbes.
And I'm Michelle Michaels. Each month we'll feature events and personalities of interest to gay men and women in Fairfax County. On this edition, we'll go behind the scenes of one of the country's foremost gay newspapers, the Washington Blade.
And we'll speak with Alexandria Mayor Jim Moran, a friend of the gay community who's running for Congress. And we'll wrap up this edition with a dynamic performance of singer Pamala Stanley, who brings the 1990 D.C. Gay Pride celebration to a clapping, stomping, and cheering close.
But first, here's a gay trivia question for you. Can you name 4 famous gay men who also had a gay brother? Stay tuned. We'll have the answer for you at the end of the show.
The Washington Blade, Washington, D.C.'s largest gay newspaper, started off as a neighborhood mimeographed sheet in 1969. In the over 20 years since, the circulation has increased to over 65,000 readers. Reporter Karen Brown finds out what keeps the gay presses rolling.
Few gays in the Washington area aren't familiar with the Washington Blade. For tens of thousands, the Blade is the foremost source for information on gay issues, entertainment, and community events.
The Washington Blade.
Featuring news and information that gays won't find anywhere else, according to editor Lisa Keene, the weekly tabloid has unfolded into a respected Washington institution, rising to fill a need in the D.C. gay community.
It got started in 1969, in October of 1969, just a few months after the Stonewall Rebellion. The Stonewall Rebellion had created a lot of excitement among gay people in the United States and had served as a catalyst for bringing a lot of gay people out of the closet and into political activism. And locally in D.C., what that meant was that about a dozen people got together in someone's living room and decided that they needed a way of communicating with one another in this area, so they decided, well, we'll just create a mimeograph sheet and put all the news on it and hand it out, and that's exactly what they did. So it was very modest beginnings, and it grew steadily during these past 20 years.
According to Blade marketer Len Brown, the Blade is primarily backed by advertisers, but distributors are also key to the paper's success.
The Blade is 20 years old, and again, I hearken back to it being a free paper. It is a giveaway paper. So the distribution network has been built over 20 years and was started with those who were sympathetic to the gay community. Bars, restaurants, gay-owned businesses, originally around DuPont Circle, started handing the Blade out or letting the Blade distribute from there.
Now given away at more than 300 locations in D.C. and its suburbs, including some 25 points in Northern Virginia, the paper has expanded not only its circulation, but its scope of reporting and its staff, now a full-time crew of 17.
The biggest difference has to be just simply in on the technical side of putting it out. But at the same time, I think activities in the gay community have increased so much in the past 20 years that the newspaper now is covering a whole new world than the newspaper was covering 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we were mostly talking about which new restaurants were having a gay night at their bar one night of the week, and that's not the front page news today. The front page news today are attacks on Capitol Hill, assertive politics on the part of gay people, and just, you know, a wide range of activities.
One way the Blade tracks activities and interests of its readers is through its twice-a-year surveys. Results have prompted more human interest stories and personality profiles as editors aim to meet the challenge of pleasing a very diverse audience.
Our readers are spanned a wide range of people. We're not all well educated with lots of disposable income and you know, white-collar jobs. We range from, you know, blue-collar workers to college professors to politicians to you name it.
The Washington Blade reaches between 65 and 75,000 people every Friday. Our readers are predominantly white. 75% of them are men. However, those that market, those readers, are affluent, well-educated, and the best part, the easiest part, the fun part for me, is that they're loyal.
Readers may stick by the Blade as consumers, but that does not mean they agree with everything the Blade publishes.
I think the most consistent complaint we get is people don't like some of the language used in personal ads, you know. Unfortunately, we don't write the personal ads. People who take the personal ads write them.
We exercise our option for editing quantity and quality, but we rarely deny anyone access to the gay community.
According to assistant to the publisher James Lamont, those ads that offend some are all a part of business.
It's become our second largest money-generating source of revenue. Our personals are pretty low-key compared to most in other gay papers. David Torreson is our classified ad manager, and he and I go over them every week. And what we'll do is we try to make sure that everything's stated positively. You know, instead of saying no fats and femmes, we try to encourage people to say lean and masculine only or something like that. But he and I proof them, and you know, we take out all the dirty words and that kind of thing.
So there's a time and a place for everything, and the Blade is open to helping people in that regard find those resources. The advertising dollar also supports resource lists, community calendars. Again, so the paper supplies access not only to phone sex, but to every gay group, every nonprofit gay group that needs announcements, advertisements, fundraisers. It's about accessibility, and the Blade, I think, supplies that.
While the Blade keeps a good humor about debate over classifieds, editorial policy is serious on the issue of outing or exposing closeted gays. The Blade's approach to the ethical dilemma is one of caution and reason.
I think a lot of the debate around outing comes down to respect. Do you respect a person's privacy, or does some other interest outweigh that person's right to privacy? In each individual case, I think we have to weigh those things. And if there was a compelling reason to violate a person's privacy, I think we would consider that. We would weigh it. I'm not saying we would necessarily immediately act and bring that person out, but we would certainly weigh what that compelling reason is. I know one example that I've heard repeatedly that I've considered, but we've never had an example like this, is that if there was an anti-gay politician and we knew with irrefutable evidence that this man was engaging in homosexual activity at the same time he was lambasting gay people as being evil and Satan incarnate, I think that we would consider very strongly publishing information that this man is also engaging in homosexual activity. I think the hypocrisy of that situation and the amount of power that a politician can wield when lambasting other citizens is significant enough to consider violating his privacy at that point. We've never had something like that happen here yet. To my knowledge, we've never outed anyone, and I've been editor for 8 years now.
Although sensitive to gay causes, the Blade is not involved in activism. This policy helps the paper maintain its reputation as a fair and professional publication.
In many ways, the Blade's coverage of a news event is very much like the mainstream media would cover a news event in terms of following all the standard news practices for gathering news. We do that. We call both sides of an issue. If there's 3 or 4 sides, we call all 3 or 4 sides of an issue to try to get as well-rounded a story and as complete a picture of what's happening as possible. The way we differ is that as gay people and gay reporters, I think we see parts of a story that mainstream reporters don't see. And when it comes to AIDS, for instance, the mainstream publications won't tell you where you can go to get an anonymous test. They won't tell you at what T-cell count you should begin taking some sort of intervention. They won't tell you how to practice safe sex. We will. I think the Washington Blade's the best gay newspaper in this country. And we have won a number of awards, but that's not why I think we're the best gay newspaper in this country. I think it's because we're one of the few truly newspaper publications for the gay community in this country. Our mission is news.
Many famous gays and bisexuals were born in November. So we'd like to wish a very gay birthday to writer Stephen Crane, Greek playwright Sophocles, composer Benjamin Britten, athlete Billie Jean King, and writer Rita Mae Brown.
Alexandria Mayor Jim Moran signed the first local ordinance in Virginia banning discrimination against gays. He is now campaigning to unseat Republican Congressman Stan Paris. Kathleen Stoll of the Human Rights Campaign Fund spoke with the mayor about his views on gay discrimination, abortion, and other campaign issues.
So one of the first things that I had wanted to talk to you about is when you were mayor of Alexandria, you were mayor 5 years, and on the city council, you were the person who introduced the lesbian and gay anti-discrimination ordinance. That would have been about what year?
I think it was 1984 or 1985, because I know they made an issue out of it in the next election.
That must have been a tough battle. You signed that in as mayor.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what it was like to support that ordinance and what some of the opponents, how they used that against you, and why you supported it, why you went to bat for the gay and lesbian community?
Sure. I introduced it in 1984. We didn't get enough votes, but after I was elected in May of 1985, we got enough votes and we signed it into law. We encountered a fair amount of homophobia. In fact, we actually generated a substantial number of new clients for our community mental health center out of it. I would write a letter back saying that I thought you might like to know that somebody wrote a bizarre letter and signed it with your signature, and that shut up some of them. But we were besieged by the crazies coming out of the walls, people who were threatened by something they didn't understand, I guess. We challenged the community of Alexandria to be secure enough to recognize and even appreciate diversity. That's really where our community derives its richness, and I think that the majority responded appropriately. We never took a referendum, but it was a compelling rationale to have a human rights ordinance that included prohibition against discrimination on any basis, and we got the votes to do it, and I'm proud that we did.
Another tough issue that you've taken a strong stand on that I think is very important in the campaign is a woman's reproductive choice, her freedom to choose an abortion. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Have you dealt with that issue in the campaign quite a bit?
I have. In fact, I was just campaigning at a shopping center, and the Right to Life group descended on me with their signs and made it very disruptive. So I got to the studio early, as a matter of fact, as a result. It really boils down to a matter of basic respect for human rights and personal dignity. It's not a matter of whether you're in favor or opposed to abortion. The issue is who makes the choice. Should a politician be making the choice or a pregnant woman? Every situation is unique, and I don't think any human being has the right to play God. Mr. Paris, I don't think he has any particular feeling one way or the other. I think he got involved in the issue in order to exploit it for political reasons. We have an interview from the Virginia pilot just last year where he said that abortion should be considered murder unless the life of the mother is truly endangered. And in fact, he suggested jail terms for women who have abortions, even in the case of rape and incest. Talk about victimizing the victim. I think if he had really given it some thought, if he was capable of giving thought to a sensitive issue like that, that he wouldn't have made the statements that he has. But I hope he gets hoisted on his own petard, because he deserves to be, as do many of his colleagues that have attempted to exploit that issue.
You had mentioned that you played a role in establishing some school-based health clinics, and as I recall, those one of the issues around that was dispensing contraceptives, and you stood up for that, and that was an important battle. That brings to mind the battle to provide supportive services to lesbian and gay youth, who are about 3 times more likely to commit suicide at that high school age. And that's a document, that report came out from the Health and Human Services of federal government. Would you support services, counseling services, AIDS education, which would be explicit about homosexuality in the schools?
Unequivocally. Of course I would.
Great.
There are so many gay, I don't know how many, nobody knows, but a substantial number of gay and lesbian young men and women who feel so isolated, who feel that there's no one that understands them or even cares to do so. And at that age, particularly in adolescence, when you're trying to define yourself, to understand who you are, and to generate a certain amount of, I don't want to use a trite word, self-esteem, it's self-respect, and if you don't have the kind of supportive mechanism, somebody that's willing to listen and to understand, you feel terribly alone, and it must be very difficult to cope. So obviously, there should be counseling provided, and I think school-based health clinics are an excellent source of that counseling. We do not charge money, and we don't try to dictate. We offer health services and counseling to those who want them, and generally those who want them need them.
Mm-hmm. We see Stan Paris as the ranking minority committee member on the D.C. committee, blocking funding to D.C. because of the family leave bill, and because it would cover gay and lesbian, and some non-traditional families that go beyond gay and lesbian, such as single mothers who may not choose to marry a partner at a point in their lives. So we would have you there on that issue.
Well, it's just part of a broader issue. I oppose meddling in the district's business in the first place. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be in the District of Columbia committee. I think we've got too many problems in terms of transportation and affordable housing and human rights and any number of issues in Northern Virginia. I'm not going to make my political career by beating up on the District of Columbia. And when the district passes its own laws and uses its own money, it ought to have the discretion to determine how to do so. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The basic issues that you stand for are those incorporated within the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and I wish some of our legislators would go back and read the Bill of Rights and the Constitution more carefully. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thanks.
If you enjoy watching Gay Fairfax, why not join our production crew? You can help research, write, and produce segments, or you could even join our studio crew.
So write to us at Gay Fairfax, care of FLGCA, Post Office Box 2322, Springfield, Virginia 22152, or give us a call at 451-9528.
In our final segment, you'll be treated to the dynamic performance of singer Pamala Stanley. Pamala credits her success to the support of gay men early in her career. In the rockin' and rollin' climax of the 1990 D.C. Gay Pride celebration, Pamela encourages the crowd in coming out of hiding.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pamala Stanley.
So how did you do with the gay trivia question? Could you name 4 famous gay men who also had a gay brother? The answers are philosopher and statesman Sir Francis Bacon and his brother Anthony, Frederick the Great of Prussia and his brother Henry, composer Peter Tchaikovsky and his brother Modeste, and poet A.E. Housman and his brother noted playwright Lawrence Housman.
Tune in next time to Gay Fairfax when we'll be speaking with the Executive Director of the Fairfax County Human Rights Commission. And we'll treat you to more of the 1990 D.C. Gay Pride festivities with the performance of the gay square dancing group Lambda Squares.
We'll close today's show with a reprise of Pamala Stanley's Coming Out of Hiding. For Gay Fairfax, I'm Michelle Michaels.
And I'm Barry Forbes. And remember to keep the pride alive.